I mean, I am here 3 days, and I made a beeline for the that place. And it is amazing. What is it? Non-porous marble, built to last. I went in one of those shops and you pour Diet Coke on top of it and it doesn't go into any of the pores. It's really an incredible thing, but I was more interested in this. Right next to the Taj Mahal, just a piece of green field. And I'm wondering, at this point in time, what will we build for the 250 million children of this country? Something as great as the Taj Mahal that's going to make a difference in their lives. It feels that the country is pregnant with education reform, that great things are about to happen. And having been here for only 3 days, it's really in the hands of the people here. But I'd like to share a couple of lessons, depending on how you count, about 8 or 9, from our experience in the United States. And the first is, just think and dream big. Have a sense of purpose that's as big as the Taj Mahal. And the way I like to think about it relates to something in our country back in 1776, when we were declaring our independence. We said we were endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights, among them life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. We're doing well on life and liberty for all of our citizens, but the pursuit of happiness, not so much, because when 7 out of 10 wealthy kids go to and graduate from college, and only 1 out of 10 low-income kids do, there is such a huge gap in educational equity that so many of our children, simply by virtue of the neighborhood they grew up in and their family circumstances, can't pursue happiness in the knowledge economy in which we live. India has to figure out its grand ambition, grand goal. What is the achievement gap here? What needs to happen? I think Shaheen described it pretty well. Lesson number 2, we have to believe wholeheartedly in our ability to change things, and just as significantly, in the ability of our children to change. That is to say that intelligence, as Richard Nesbitt puts it, is malleable. Our kids can get smarter and climb the mountain to college. Character, as Marty Seligman and Chris Peterson put it, is malleable, that people can become better and greater over time, and that it's our sacred duty as teachers and educators to make a difference. There was a teacher, anybody know who that is? Jaime Escalante. If you see the movie Stand and Deliver, there was a teacher in Los Angeles. He died recently, but he believed that his students could be great academically, they could be great in their hearts, and that when all the other teachers in the school said that they couldn't do college-level math, he made sure that all of them got over the bar and went off to college. Lesson number 3. We must build a great people pipeline. I think in this country, you need about, depending on how you count, somewhere between 600,000 and 1.6 million teachers, lickety-split. We need people. So we need people like Julie Jackson, who is one of the great teachers and leaders at North Star Academy in Newark. She joined Teach for America in 1994 and was part of the army of something now like 35,000 American citizens who've come forward to teach in low-income communities. There are about 5 people running big inner city school systems in the United States who are part of this army of teachers spawned by Teach for America just 20 years ago. We need to build a pipeline of folks. When I was in Delhi yesterday, I saw people. Anybody know who that is? Tarun, Shobali, Somya, and Pallav. Right? They're part of the army of teachers and future leaders here who are going to change India. And we just need so many of them to be classroom teachers and school leaders and government officials and journalists and policymakers and philanthropists to change the country. And if we have enough of them, so many of them will go and do great things. Lesson number 4, it's great to have wonderful people, but we also need to build systems. And so very concrete, explicit systems that make a difference in our classroom. One of my colleagues, Doug Lamov, spent the past 10 years going to classes throughout the United States and looking for the most outstanding teachers and codified their practices. And he saw what great teachers do. They meet students at the threshold. They wait for students to come up with the answers. When students give partial answers, the great teachers stretch it out. They insist that right has to be right. They don't let students opt out. They cold call. They plan their lessons. These are not wickedly complicated details. They're very basic systems that are core to the education reform work that we're doing in the United States. If we're teaching and our students aren't learning, it's not really teaching. If we think that our kids will do great simply because we think well of ourselves and our kids are near us, or because we just show up for class, we're making a huge mistake. It's important to show up, but it's important to figure out whether or not our students are learning and to be able to differentiate the instruction in that case. Another one of my colleagues, Paul Bambrick, wrote a book called Driven by Data. And by assessing every 6 to 8 weeks and trying to figure out what students have learned with respect to the lessons that we've taught, we're able to figure out how to make a difference in their own learning progression. Lesson number 6. I think let's call this 6A, because there might be 2 6s here. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. When we founded North Star Academy in 1997, it wasn't just building a school, an academic institution. It was about creating a whole culture, a whole community, a whole set of rituals. And we have to be really careful and purposeful about how we do that. I think about people who were doing this long before we did. About 100 years ago in Jacksonville, Florida, there was a famous American, he wasn't famous then, by the name of James Weldon Johnson. And he just wanted to inject some spirit into the school to build a good culture. And he wrote a song called Lift Every Voice and Sing, and it became the Black national anthem for an entire people. He knew how to build culture. I like to think of it as making the weather. We make the weather. Has anybody been skiing? When you go to a resort to ski and there's no snow on the mountain and the resort needs to make money and you got to figure out how you're going to ski? You take silver iodide and you throw it up into the sky and suddenly snow comes down. You can literally make the weather. Some of us go around and we make the weather look like this. And some of us can go around and we can make the weather look like this. We make the weather for ourselves, for our community, for our children. It's a big lesson of the education reform work. And lesson 6B is that we need to do this for a lot of people really, really fast. But at the same time, we have to make sure that we do a good job of it. And so we have to be very careful and purposeful about our growth. There is a tendency to go too fast. So when we started Uncommon Schools in about 2002, building on the work of North Star Academy, we were only opening a couple of schools at a time with one grade level at a time because we wanted to make sure that we could get the DNA of the culture and the academic systems and the people right. And if you could do that early on, you have a chance of building a much better scaled organization. So now we're 6,000 students in 28 schools, growing to eventually about 15,000 students in 45 schools. Without great teachers, nothing else matters. Lesson number 7. So McKinsey put together a study that was based on other studies, and they showed that for an average student, if you have 3 teachers who barely come to school in over 3 years, or you have 3 low-performing teachers, you are pretty much destined not to go to college. You're down in the bottom third. But if you get 3 great teachers in a row, you're solid. You're headed to college. You're in the 90th percentile. 3 great teachers in a row. Another way to look at it is there was an economist at Harvard, I think his name is Chetty, who said that a kindergarten teacher like this one, Miss Settles in Newark, New Jersey, is worth about, I think I'm doing the conversion right, about 12 million rupees per year of future earnings to her students on the basis of the work that she's doing in kindergarten. Teachers matter most. And this is good news. Teachers are not born. If they were born, this is what it would feel like. I've got a friend named Dave Levin who's involved with KIPP, and he says it's even harder than this to find teachers who are born. It's like finding a needle in a needle stack. So we have to figure out how to make people who would otherwise not be a teacher, people like Julie Jackson, who if it weren't for Teach for America probably wouldn't have gone into teaching, how to make them as systematic and as strong as possible for the benefit of kids, or how to take good teachers and make them great. And partly why we created Relay Graduate School of Education, which is just opening up this summer, is because we're trying to create a relay of 3 teachers in a row to take our low-income students and get them where they belong, which is in college, to give them an equal shot at success in school and in life. And we can train our teachers using the systems that I've described and using the data systems that we've talked about. And we've got about 300 teachers who started in this program, charter school teachers, district school teachers. And the idea is eventually to get 10,000 teachers across the country. We need to make a big difference. So there's Julie Jackson again. She's one of the professors at Relay Graduate School of Education, teaching teachers. And this isn't really a lesson. This is just kind of the music of the work of the education reform movement in the United States, that we really feel a sense of urgency about the work. If not now, when? And there's a young man from Mumbai who I met recently who feels that urgency and knows that now is the time. And he's made a beeline for Newark, New Jersey. I think here he is in Mumbai with his students. His name is Gaurav Singh. And he's sitting there learning from Julie Jackson and the folks at North Star so that he can come back working with Ed Villages. It's a product of Teach for India to make a new school here in Mumbai for the students here. And we need a whole lot of people like Gaurav to come forward, to go into teaching, to feel the mission, to believe that change is possible, to build those academic systems, to assess, to make sure that students are learning, to recognize how much teachers matter, and to support them, and to train them, and to give them a sense of urgency. And with an army of people like Gaurav, India will be at the forefront of education reform. And then I'll come back in a decade. I'll get to go visit the Taj again. And you'll have so much to teach us and the rest of the world about the important work of making things right for all of our children. Thank you very much.